darkness, right? When saying peace, bring that light back. I had some thoughts on Genesis and just how much it speaks through the Father teaching and showing how much is in His Word on do not add or take away from His Word, salvation of all in Genesis, image of the beast in Genesis, all these things. And it's incredible because it's also teaching that Adam and Eve were sold under sin to the devil, sold to sin, and are in the image of the beast, of the wicked one, the Elohim of this world, and that they could do nothing else, and that they had no free will like Christianity teaches in pride and rebellion, because free is apart from everything, from the Father's law and power and sovereignty, but there's no reality to that. But that's their doctrine. This is a prideful doctrine that teaches people to sin and stay in rebellion in the heart. It will never do any good for someone being told lies. Someone might turn around and most not hear the truth and get angry and attack, but it doesn't matter. The only good thing to do is give the truth. If someone's going to get something good out of it, it's going to come through truth, not lies. That will never be blessed. The Father has never blessed one sin at any time, ever. That's because He's perfect, and there is no darkness, no sin, no darkness and evil in Him. He doesn't work dark works of evil works with intentions and thoughts for evil through evil. He does not do. We read that the Father cannot even be tempted by evil. So that's pretty strong. He can't even be tempted by evil, let alone do evil. No. But the world, it must believe what it believes and teach that the Father is wicked. Their true God is the devil, and this is the good God. That's what they have in their heart. They stay very quiet about the image of the beast, free will, the being in the Father's image. They all speak the lie and stay quiet to all the problems and contradictions. In the midst of the garden, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So then, this is mixed, this is wicked, this is what sin is. All of sin is mixed, good and evil. This right here is all evil, even though it has the word good in there, and there's good and evil mixed in it. This is the definition of all evil. Good and evil mixed without seeing the difference between the two. Adam and Eve don't see good, they don't see evil, but we're reading His Word for the truth. So we're told that it's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So we know that's the truth because that's what the Father says. And it's mixed, good and evil on one tree. But Adam and Eve only see a tree with whatever fruit, and it's rotten fruit. Truly, it's a deception. Everything just looks good and looks like the real thing, but it's working a deception through the enemy, through the serpent, with cunning mixed truths, which is what all sin is, which is a lie. Because if there's even a little bit of corruption in something, that's not the truth. You can't call it truth. 99% truth is not truth. That's a lie and wicked. Now, you can discern and separate. That's a different thing. If it's as it is, 99% good, 1% evil, that is evil. It's not good. It's the mixed thing, which is sin and evil. Man's heart is mixed. He's already this. Now we just have to learn and see continually what it is, because he's already this. Adam and Eve already is obeying all evil and doing all evil from the heart, and his heart is already deceitful above all things and mixed. Jehovah Elohim took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to tend and keep it. Anyone who turns back from the plow, Messiah's words, is not fit for the kingdom. And Jehovah Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. You can freely do good, all the good you want. You can eat all the good works and do good and eat all the good from the trees that produce good fruit. Freely have all you want for good. There is no law against good. You could do whatever you want. 5% today, 10. Mix this good with that good over there. Eat a little bit of this good and this fruit with that fruit. Eat a bunch of fruit all at once. Eat a little bit throughout the day. In any combination, there is no law against good. So it's why we read, freely eat. You have all these things, all this good you can do. Freely do any of the good you want. All good and could be done. No law against good. To do all good works. Eat all the good fruit. And what do? They go to the one that's commanded not to do. They've got everything they could ever want and need, but man is not satisfied, which just hit me right now that Genesis is also teaching. The eye of man is never satisfied. Wow, incredible. I mean, if someone can picture all this good they can do, and they're not satisfied, they have to figure out and go and break the command for one good and evil mixed tree, which is what sin is. It lures people in. They need to find out the wickedness. They'll make every excuse and justification, but they can't because they have been given all things good freely to do. And can he do it? He can't do it. Adam and Eve can't do it. They don't know what it truly even is because they're not in the Father's image, in his spiritual image. That didn't even happen until Messiah. Messiah was the first human man ever to be in the Father's actual spiritual image according to what Genesis really means. So then first the natural, then the spiritual. The flesh profits nothing. Adam standing up on 2 feet, standing upright, doesn't mean he's an upright person at all. That's doing the Father's will and doing the works of the Creator, and which are the works from the heart. He couldn't do that. Adam and Eve are carnal. They're natural. They're naked. They're like babies. They don't know the difference between good and evil, but they get deceived into thinking they do for sinning. If you sin, like we'll read, the devil lies. And then Adam blames Eve, and Eve blames the serpent, and Adam blames Eve. That's what happens. They did not accept what they did or acknowledge it at all or any time. They did not know how to repent. They can only look like they repented by acknowledging the words, which is what man is. He can only speak words. He can't actually repent in the heart. No, not an unbeliever. He can't do good in unbelief. Someone needs to believe first. And they do need to repent, which we also know is a gift. But how come his free will can't do that whenever he wants? You could scream, not to do this, but you could scream in front of someone's face the truth, and they won't be able to do good. Every little move they do afterwards, they can't do good. Not if they haven't been taught by the Creator through Messiah, and not apart from belief. They can't do good because they don't know what it is. And they don't know what evil is. They think they do. And it's the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. It's mixed. They do not see good on the tree or evil. It's all one in their eyes. It looks the same. Therefore, that is what sin is, mixed. All of it. But of the tree of the good and evil, knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. Dying you shall die. And Jehovah said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him. Something I've seen with this is, like a believer anywhere in this world, all by himself, there's nothing comparable, because those not of the Father have no fellowship with those from light to darkness. There is no fellowship between light and darkness, so there's nothing comparable to a believer, a light in the world, unless there's another believer. Then these two are comparable, and they can help each other, a helper. But no unbeliever will be able to truly fellowship with a believer. They will seek to destroy you. Out of the ground Jehovah Elohim formed every beast of the field and every bird of the air, and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. Whatever Adam called each living creature, that was its name. So he gave the names to all the cattle, birds, every beast of it. For Adam there was not found a helper comparable to him. Like the Father, I see, could be representing Adam, and the woman, spiritual Israel, Messiah, and the two become one. The Father, the creator of all mankind, but those that believe in him through a new covenant. He's the Father, and Messiah is the mediator, man, Son of Man. And he is the head of the church, of the ecclesia, the gathering, the body of Messiah. And a son of the Father is to believe and receive his Spirit. So the Father, Messiah, and the stars, the sun, the moon, and the stars, in the heavenly places, spiritual, heavenly people, the heavenly family, the Creator, Messiah, and all his people. So Adam is like the Father, Messiah like the spiritual Israel woman and or Messiah, and these two become one. Of course, nobody in Trinity land is going to understand what one is, because if they've not seen the oneness of what the Father can do and does for those that believe, they will have no clue what it is. The best they can do is say words and what they think that is, which is a mutation, a golden calf monster created in its beastly image. And in a Trinity is like three heads on one body. It's a mutation. There's nothing one about it. It's a beast. That is what their God is, a devil, beast, the God of this world. Elohim of this world is their God. Messiah said, your father is the devil. His works you will do. This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh, so she called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. This is the truth. What does mankind like to do? Break it. They break what this means spiritually in the heart, with intent, with works, with evil works. Parents don't want to give up their kids. They want to control and rule them forever, don't they? Christian parents, where art thou? Why don't you believe this? Therefore they shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife. They can't let that leaving part, right? Leave. It doesn't mean like scram, good riddance, I'll never speak to you again with the machine gun. That's not what that means. They're not obeying this. Shall leave. Be separate. They don't obey that. Now for someone that's single, they might try to catch you like they've tried to catch me. Gotta catch 'em all. Adam. And they shall become one flesh. So they would just see the natural, a literal man joining a literal wife, leaving his mother and father and joining a literal wife. Well, that's the earthly. What about the greater? What about the heavenly? Which one's greater, the earthly or the heavenly? Well, the carnal man says earthly because there is no heavenly for him. Heavenly is earthly. They take what's above and make it down, and down is what's above, mixed backwards. Someone that's a believer, that leaves father and mother and single, this is the covenant. This is the true wife, because there is no male or female in the kingdom of heaven. It doesn't work like that. And they shall become one with Messiah and the Father, as Messiah prayed that for his people, all his disciples, all believers, that they shall be one, just as I and my Father are one. That's what he prayed for his people, one. They shall be one. So then Messiah is the wife then. It doesn't matter what that sounds like. The father like the husband. And the children are his people. Children of Elohim, surprise. Suddenly it becomes an abomination when you actually use it for what it truly means. Children, son. Son is just a word you just throw around. It doesn't actually mean son at all. Not in religion, it doesn't mean anything. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. And then the next. Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which Jehovah Elohim had made. And he said to the woman, he's questioning, has Elohim indeed said? This is bringing up fears, doubts, all kinds of things. Confusion, fears, doubts, not knowing. This is the work of the enemy, to plant seeds of doubt, fears, and wickedness, and going against, twisting. You shall not, has Elohim indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, you shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Let's go back to what we actually read. What verse is it? Commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. Every tree, freely eat. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall die. Shall not eat the knowledge of the tree of good and evil shall not eat, but every tree of the garden you may freely eat. Now what's the enemy saying? Has Elohim indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? You shall not eat of every tree of the garden? That's not what he said. Am I just seeing this now? But of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. But of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. Has he indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? No! He said the exact opposite. You can eat every tree of the garden, but not the tree of the good and evil. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. But above that, of every tree of the garden is good. Every tree in the garden is good. You may freely eat. I didn't even see this before. You shall not eat of, has Elohim indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? It's already a twisted lie and injecting confusion. He didn't say that. He said you can eat of every tree of the garden. Freely eat of every tree of the garden, and you shall not eat. Very simple command. Of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now he's saying, has Elohim indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? No, stupid, fool, foolish, wicked one. You're asking a question and twisting the question. This is the works of man. This is what man does. It's this corrupt. It's a sorcery. It's trying to confuse you. It's a spiritual sorcery working. More cunning than any beast. Beast. The image of the beast. To be in their father's image, the devil. Who were Adam and Eve in their image? The devil. They weren't in the Father's image, they're in the devil's image. Carnal, wicked, sinners. That's mankind, Adam and Eve. After they sinned, this is what happened. They were sold to sin, and they're in the image of their father, the devil. Has Elohim indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? No, correction that nobody's correcting in the church world, but I'm speaking of what I see it with the works of the heart for what this means. But pretty incredible that I don't think I've ever seen this. How blind are we that you can come back months, years later and still find more and more in Genesis, and you've already read it, read the words, whoever has read the words. It's incredible. No, the Father did not say, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden. He said, you shall freely eat of every tree of the garden, and not. So then what do we read now? Out of a corrupt question. This needs to be corrected when we see someone do this corruption. Don't answer the question. No, if this is corrupted from the original, this needs corrected and exposed. Don't answer a twisted question that twists it all. And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden. I don't even know. Let's see what that. We may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden. Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. We may eat of the fruit. Okay. I mean, that seems to line up, but of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. I mean, you shall not eat. We may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, you shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Well, we don't read in Genesis that you shall not touch it. So here is already some confusion from a corrupt question and twisting. All of this is sin. That's happening. You shall not touch it. We didn't read that. That's adding to his word what's not there. You know, it doesn't matter whether that's included or not, whether it's what was said in reality long ago. We don't read that. We don't read that Eve and Adam, where Adam and Eve were told this. But she adds, nor shall you touch it. And what's going on with the command? Well, trying to take it away. Adding and taking away, trying to twist the question and take away the original command. Has Elohim indeed said? No, he didn't really say that. He didn't really command it. I want to remove from your word. And the serpent said to the woman, you will not surely die. I'm God. I'm the God of this world. God-man. You are my little children. I just flip backwards and twist everything. I'm God. I can do this because I say so. You will not surely die. I'm God. This is what mankind is. He'll just say the opposite. And then he gets proven wrong, and then everybody's quiet. Everybody's very quiet, and everyone disappears. Where are they then? All day long, the prideful God-man and prideful man in the world that doesn't believe at all, that needs to repent, that's in death and darkness, says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and then he's not able to. I bet you $1 million this, and then it breaks it. Then when he gets it, when he happens to get it right, he didn't even do that. It just ended up being right. Then he counts himself as a prophet and forgets all the times that he's proven a liar and no God-man at all. No God, no creator at all. All the times it's wrong and cannot do anything about it. For Elohim knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened. No, more lies. And you will be like Elohim. More lies. Knowing good and evil. More lies. All of it. No, none of that's true. This is twisting and saying something about what the Father knows and adding to him through saying what he knows and adding knowledge that's twisted. Knows in the day of you that your eyes will be opened. Opened for what? For good? Is that what he's saying? No, it's not. They just realize that they're naked. That's it. This is not opened. This is closed. Their eyes will be closed shut. They don't have spiritual eyes and ears. They're carnal. This is the trick, that your eyes will be open. No, they won't. They'll be sewn shut. They're blind. You have eyes but cannot see, ears but cannot hear. Not speaking of carnal, literal eyes. Messiah is not speaking of carnal, literal eyes. Isaiah is not speaking of, in Isaiah. His word not speaking of that, but spiritual eyes and ears. No eyes and ears, blind. Your eyes will not be open for sinning. For in the day you eat of it, which is sin. When you break the command and eat, this is sin. So for sinning, your eyes will be opened and you will be like Elohim. What does that mean? To be the creator himself? What does that mean? It doesn't say in his image, just that you will be like Elohim. You will be like what? The Most High? Isn't that a sin we read elsewhere in his word? I will be like the Most High, like they read of man, but they apply it to Satan, who died and fell down and birds and worms pecking at him and didn't have a proper burial, and mankind looked and beheld Satan dead on the ground and filled up with worms and not a proper burial. That's man. That's man. I will be like the Most High. This is the wickedness. This is to be the God of gods, the Elohim of Elohims, the man of sin, the son of perdition, right in Genesis. You will be like Elohim. Yes, like the Most High in pride. Not in his image, not having anything to do with the good and humble, and not being the creator. He's saying the exact opposite. This is what the devil is tempting all day long in somebody's heart in 2022 right now, and has been since their birth. Mankind is already, whatever his word means, for the evil. They're already doing the evil, knowing good and evil. No, they wouldn't know good and evil at all. Zero. You don't learn good and evil by sinning, and your eyes don't get opened for sinning, and you don't become like the Most High Elohim for sinning. Become in his image through obeying him, apart from being the creator, apart from pride. All backwards. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, lust of the flesh, that it was pleasant to the eyes, lust of the eyes, and the tree desirable to make one wise. That's a lie. That's just what the claim is. The lie is that. There's no wisdom in it. The pride of life. To make one wise. To make yourself wise. For your self-gain. From self. What do people do? Why do they read a bunch of books? To make oneself wise. For pride. For wickedness. For its own self. Desirable to make one wise. And the tree was good for food, pleasant to the eyes, lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, pride of life. And she took the fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Does Eve love her husband? No, not at all. Does Adam love Eve? No, because Adam didn't stop Eve and correct her, and Eve was willing to and did get Adam to sin. This is hate. This is murder. This is a murderous heart with no love at all. You can do and make what the devil calls love all day long, and it's no love at all. That leave it to Hollywood and its wickedness and what they call love. that they show all the time on to people. Wild beasts can do that and brutally have nothing to do with each other and hate each other. This is no love at all, because Eve got her husband to sin, and Adam didn't do anything about it either. They are both guilty. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew they were naked. This opened is just a trick. It's just mixing in with some other things. Part of it is like truth, part of it's backwards, part of it's mixed. That's how wicked and confusing evil is. Any combination of wickedness and lies. And the definition of truth to a carnal man is to have one little piece of truth in what he says. Somewhere in there, there's a branch where this is something to do with truth. And then he will call that monstrous lie that's all mixed and has a bunch of lies and evil in it. He will call that the truth because one little piece of it was true, right? That the eyes would be opened, and then that came true. That they could see they were naked, but even that meaning, they thought that would be for good, didn't they? The enemy didn't say what opened means here, did he? He leaves that for you to interpret by your own lust and desire, because you want it to be about something good. You want it to be true. You want it. False prophet works like that. He gives you just enough, at times with mixing and lies, but then sometimes you're getting just enough so that you imply it yourself. That's a lie. That's a wicked trick. Deceiver. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. They made themselves coverings. Can't do that. Can't be forgiven. How many times have we heard, forgive yourself, forgive yourself. Oh, I can't forgive You can't forgive yourself. No one has ever done it a day in their life. Never. It never stands. It never worked. Nobody's ever forgiven themselves apart from the Creator, apart from repentance. Ever. Can't forgive yourself. I can't forgive myself. That judgment will stick on you way harder than, sand on peanut butter or whatever, an example. It'll be on you forever if that wasn't acknowledged and repented of through belief, through being sorry for doing some kind of evil. No, Adam and Eve aren't sorry at all. They just want the good thing. They just want to cover up their shame real quick and cover it up and pretend it never happened. Every time, every sin, the same thing happens. They cover up. Sin again, they cover up. This is teaching that they don't want to acknowledge it. It's not the true covering. They're trying to hide it so that they don't acknowledge it and act like they're not sinners because of their own covering. Pride tries to cover and forgive itself. It can't do it. And they heard the sound of Jehovah Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Jehovah Elohim among the trees of the garden. Heard the sound in the cool of the day, and they hid. Why are they hiding? Because they're guilty. Nobody hides for what they're not guilty of. Hiding in darkness is all sin, guilt, and wicked sin done. This is cowardly fear from sin. If that covering worked, how come they hid? That just hit me too right now. The next verse proves this covering didn't work, which is saying the forgiveness, which I knew, and that's been given. That man can't forgive himself. But this is covering self, is to try to forgive yourself and hide. If it worked, if their covering worked, how come they ran and hid after they covered themselves and then they ran and hid? What are they guilty of? Why are you running? If that cover's working, stand firm in front of the Creator. Stand firm and say, I am not a sinner. I'm God. God Almighty. And you can't see my sin. I have self-confidence steaming with wicked pride coming out of my pores and eyes and ears. No, but they couldn't even do that. They ran away and hid because their conscience, they're guilty regardless. No covering of self is going to do anything. Can't forgive your own sins and make sin go away. It'll keep piling up on someone's body. Adam, where are you? So he said, I heard your voice in the garden. I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. That's right. Afraid from the sin and the shame of it. So what is mankind doing? Hiding himself like a rat in a hole from sin. Everyone's already doing it that doesn't believe. They're already doing what this is, and it needs to be given to see it. They're already doing it perfectly wickedly. Already hiding and very cowardly, afraid and fearful. Hiding under images. And Jehovah's Elohim said to the woman, what is this you have done? The woman said, the serpent deceived me and I ate. She blamed it on the serpent. That's what she did through saying this, because the carnal man never can repent of self. He never acknowledges his sins at any time. The natural man is at war and enmity against the Creator, cannot do any good, freely do good, free will, choose good. How come they didn't do any good at all? Zero. You would think at least a tiny bit of good was done. There was no good done. Breaking the command is sin. There's no good in that. Running, covering, and hiding is sin. There's no good in that. That's just proof that the first thing was sin and they're guilty for it. Does this work with the Father? The serpent deceived me and I ate. Does that work to blame someone else? Can't people see this is what people are doing constantly? They don't take any accountability at all at any time for what their heart actually does, ever. It blames someone else through the words. She acknowledged I ate after blaming the serpent. The serpent deceived me and I ate. That's why she's able to say I ate, because she already has this loophole and justification in her carnal mind and wicked, deceitful heart. So does this work with the Creator? The serpent deceived you. Nice excuse. Yeah, that's right. That's why you got deceived. You could blame it on him and I accept it. Well, let's see if that's accepted. So Jehovah Elohim said to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed, more than all cattle and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. The way of the devil is cursed, more than any beast of the field. And man is a beast. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Now we have the enmity between the serpent seed and the woman. The woman and the enemy, which we read in Revelation, going back, that old serpent, the devil, even connecting it for us, literally with the words. And we read of the woman in Revelation, and to the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. Does the natural man know what he shall rule over you means? No. To do this on purpose and try to follow his command, like to read these words and try to do that every day, you will have a man just like beating his wife. That's it. Just ruthlessly controlling him. Are these words true? Yes. This is what a man should do. Adam doesn't do that. Adam has no rule or power. He just eats sin that Eve gives her. Doesn't have any power or control at all. This ruling is good. This is set apart. This is good. This is out of love, not cruelty, whatever. Can't say the word even. He shall rule over you, but the wicked man, the natural man, only sees evil through his word. Rule? Oh, that must be beastly, like everywhere I see, rule. No, it's not. Yet it is a ruling. And the woman wants to be the husband. Husband wants to be the woman. Punished are they for being backwards and sick. That's why families are broken everywhere and diseased and miserable and in death, because Adam doesn't rule over Eve, and Eve doesn't want to be the wife, wants to be the man. Neither one can actually be done. They're cursed. Then to Adam he said, because you have heeded the voice of your wife. And there it is. Because you have heeded the voice of your wife. You weren't supposed to, because she told you to sin. You're not supposed to be nice now and heed the voice of your wife. So they just like that, because you heeded the voice of your wife. You're supposed to listen to your wife. Not when it's sin. Not as a little woman that's not the head of the house at all, and have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it. There it is. Adam is guilty for taking what Eve gave. What's he going to do? Cursed is the ground for your sake, and toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles shall bring forth, you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust you shall return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. The woman, spiritual Israel, is the mother of all those alive in Messiah, the living. Those not of him are the dead, and the Creator is the judge of the living and the dead. Those that are alive now, but yes, especially judge the dead. Especially judge the unbelievers and wicked right now that are dead. And he's judging the living also without partiality. The Father's people, the living and the dead. The judgment is now for his people. The judgment begins at the house of Elohim, we read. And the judgment for wickedness and sin, well, it's just a cursed way, constantly getting whipped and judged and never being corrected with the correcting judgment. That's how brute beastly Adam is and Eve. Never can learn, ever learning, never coming to a knowledge of truth. Mother of all living. Also for Adam and his wife, Jehovah Elohim made tunics of skin and clothed them. This is the Father's covering. Behold, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put out his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat, and live to the age, or age abiding, forever. Therefore sent him the guardian to ground on that. Now, lest he put out his hand and take also of the tree of life. No, can't have the tree of life while in death, and have both. One or the other. This is bad. That's why we read, no, this is not good. And now, lest he put his hand and take also of the tree of life. Can't have that. Lest he take also, warning, that's not good, not allowing that. The tree of life was not available. Only in death Adam was since then, until Messiah. And then the prophecy actually started to work in people and began in Messiah. Man has become like one of us. Who's us? The Father and Messiah. Behold, the man has become like one of us. What, Adam? To know good and evil? Adam knows good and evil for sinning. So the devil is the truth, huh? The contradicting, lying foolishness is the truth. Adam and Eve knows what good and evil is. That's why they sinned, right? Because they knew what it was. That's why they sinned, right? Christianity, because they knew what good and evil were, right? And after they sinned, they double know what it is now for sinning. They know now what good and evil is. Just done. Just done. I eat some fruit and now I know what good and evil is. They have no clue what this is. They've never asked how this prophecy and his word works. What authority do they have off of? The devil? The confused, wicked, insecure God of the world? The wannabe creator? The Elohim of this world? Prideful, insecure, wicked Elohim? Deceiver? A beast? Like one of us, to be as the Father. The Messiah was made in the Father's image. Conformed, and then we needing to be in Messiah's image, who's in the Father's image. So that's to be in the Father's image. Father, Messiah, and his people. Us, the Father and Messiah in heaven. Now that prophecy became true with Messiah for the first time. A spiritual reality and power started working where nobody knew what this meant at all. Nobody, no Jerusalem knew what this meant. They still don't know Jerusalem. Carnal Jerusalem doesn't know what this means because it doesn't believe at all and doesn't know what good or evil is. It's not learning what good and evil is. Man does not know what good and evil is. He has to learn from the Creator and through Messiah. That's why we read us. But is it a contradiction with him, singular? No, it's not, because they're both true. Till the ground drove man to place cherubim, flaming sword. Where is that? The next one? No, previous chapter, I think. So we read us in there to make like one of us, knowing good and evil. That begins when a believer believes. That's just the beginning. The fear of the belief and fear of the Creator is just the beginning of knowledge. Of what? The knowledge of good and evil. Nobody knew it before they believed it all. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. What is that tree? Sin. The fruit represents the works, the wicked mixed works. To eat this sin, mankind believes he learns good and evil and has it because the devil said so. Because it's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. If you eat from the tree of good and evil, that means you learn good and evil right away, right? Wrong. Not even remotely. It's 180. Completely. You don't know good and evil for eating of the tree. What do we read? For in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. That's the Father's word. Where does he say you shall know good and evil for eating it? It's a trick. You cannot judge something by what it sounds and looks like only. This looks like to man that cannot see. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He thinks he knows why those words are there. He thinks he knows what that means and already assumes. So when the devil gives them the temptation and mixing and deception, man already wanted to believe something about that. Here's the push. Here's the deception. And then the enemy adds to his word and says for eating of the tree of good and evil, you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. No, we don't read that. Father never said that. You shall surely die. Not only is that not true, you will be dead, and you will have no wisdom or knowledge. You will be a dead man, far from the Father's image. Incredible. Line by line, it's corruption through the enemy and mankind, corrupting everything they touch. Yeah, what do we read here? Has Elohim indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? That was a lie like earlier that I don't think I've ever seen. This was a lie. The enemy asking this was already corrupt. It's not what the Father said. You shall not eat of every tree of the garden. You shall freely eat of every tree of the garden, except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For Elohim knows in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like Elohim. Where do we read that? It's coming from the enemy. Knowing good and evil. Why? Because you ate from the knowledge of tree of good and evil. Sounds like it, right? Wrong. No, you will not know good and evil at all. Zero. For eating the tree from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This is what sin is. When people sin, they believe they know good and evil for sinning. It's stupid. This is what Genesis is teaching. This is the Father's word teaching it. Father teaches it because it's his word. It's never apart from the Creator. Eating from that tree does not make you learn good and evil instantly. Oh, I did some sin. I did a wicked work. Now I know good and evil. Nope. Never. Never. The Father commands us to not eat from it. That's our command today, to eat from the tree of life and anything else that's good, but not that tree. That's for us right now, to this day. We read us, and then for man, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Yes, the train horn is confirming. Let them have dominion over the fish and the seabird. So Elohim created in his own image, in the image of Elohim. He, singular, singular, created him, singular. Male and female, he, singular, created them. Then we read our, right above that. We read plural and singular. How could it be both? Christianity doesn't know. They never thought to ask. That they don't know. How could they know what it means? It's a contradiction, isn't it? Our image, his image, him, he. Excuse me. How could it be our and he? Which one? Which one? Which one is it? Which one is it? It's both. And they can't see how. They can't see how. How can an unbeliever see anything? It has to be given in spirit. They can't see. And the Father and Messiah now in heaven, creating man in our image, Father and Messiah. That's the our. And then when we read, so Elohim, not Messiah, Elohim created man in his singular, his image, his own image. Messiah was the first man created in Elohim's image, in the image of Elohim, not Messiah. The Father, the Creator, created man, and Messiah became in his own image, in the image of Elohim. He, the Father, created him, Messiah, the first. Male and female, he created them. So this is true, and this is true, both. Let us make man in our image, speaking of Father and Messiah, the family. Both are true. Messiah became in his image, the Father's image, Elohim's image. And let us, speaking of the Father and Messiah, make man in our image. Both true. There was no spiritual reality to these words and prophecy before Messiah. How do they know what this means and when it applies and how it's working? How do they know? Did they ever ask the Creator how this is working, how this prophecy is working? It just reads letters and destroys everything and everyone, and it does exactly the works of the devil, twisting and mixing everything. Every false prophet works just like his father, the devil. Listen to them very closely. They twist everything. There's nothing they don't twist to their own destruction, like we read. You shall not eat of every tree of the garden. No, that's a lie. You can eat freely of any good and do any good that's good freely, but not to eat the knowledge of the good and evil, because that, if you eat it, you will become the corrupt mixed thing. You won't know good and evil for real and separate the two. If you eat sin, which is representing the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you will become what that tree is, which is a mixed, wicked thing of good and evil within your temple, and not knowing the difference between the two, because you just take it all in as one when it's supposed to be set apart and separate. Good, take the good and separate the evil. But you take all of it as one, you become the knowledge of the tree of good and evil, which is wickedness, which is blind, which is not knowing good and evil. It's exactly the opposite of what someone thinks and what they would think from reading the letters, and they won't understand unless it's given, unless they seek him for the understanding. And Adam and Eve being covered is the Father teaching from the beginning. He declares the end from the beginning, the salvation of all mankind, that he will have mercy on all mankind and cover them in due time, because he's not partial. He covers all mankind, Adam and Eve. That's all mankind, no one left out. And the sun that goes around the earth, he showed me something the other day. The sun at its furthest point from somebody is darkness, and it's the furthest away, but it comes back. And so those that never believed in this life, they were the furthest away, and now, in due time, the sun, the light will come around. It'll come back, because the sun goes around what? The creation. How much of it? All of it. There's not a single human being that hasn't seen the sunlight. So then it goes around without partiality. But those in darkness, the Father is away from them and getting worse and worse, and that's the furthest point. The sun's away from them in the earth. Then after the furthest point, it starts getting closer, and then the light comes until the day dawns and the morning star rises in our heart. That's what we read. So the creation is speaking the Father's word in truth, teaching the Father, Messiah, and all the believers, the sun, moon, and stars, and it's teaching salvation for all and resurrection for all. It's teaching that every year it comes back, even though it looks dead and not so good. Springtime, it's back to life, and it cycles. And how much of the creation does that? All of it without partiality. How much of it do we read in Genesis? Let's go back to 1. The earth was without form. You have neither heard his voice or seen his form at any time, Messiah said. The earth was without form and void. You make his word to no effect, void. And darkness was on the face of the deep. What is darkness? The bottomless pit of sin that has no bottom, and it's dark and deep, and it's in chaos. And the Spirit of Elohim was hovering over the face of the waters. Then Elohim said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And Elohim saw the light, that it was good, and he divided the light from the darkness. Can't be mixed. Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day, or day 1. Then Elohim said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." Thus Elohim made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. Man would like to do this. He would like to speak, and then let it be so. He likes to do that because he got told by his father, the devil, that you shall be like Elohim. You shall be like the Most High. And Elohim called the firmament heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day. Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. Dry land, earth, and the gathering together of waters he called the seas, the wicked, the roaring seas that never rest, the carnality on earth, lowly, beastly, no rest day and night, and Elohim saw that it was good. Then Elohim said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit, according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth," and it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the third day. Let there be lights, Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night. And let them be for signs in the heavens. The Father gives us signs for those that believe, spiritual signs in the heavenly places, and seasons for, times, days, and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth. And it was so. Messiah says he's the light of the world, but he's calling his people to be lights in the world. The lights in the firmament above the heavens, his people, to give light on the earth, and it was so. Then Elohim made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also, the 3, sun, moon, and stars. That's it. That's it, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Someone told him to get lost. It wouldn't be possible because that's all it's ever been. Elohim set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness, and saw that it was good. Evening and the morning, 4th day. Let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures. Let birds fly above it across the face of the firmament of the heavens, according to every kind, according to its kind. Elohim saw it was good and blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters, and let the birds multiply. Be fruitful, multiply, fill the waters, let the birds multiply on the earth. So the evening and morning were the 5th day. Fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth. What's multiplying around the kingdom of heaven? The wickedness, the leaven that a woman hid in 3 measures until it's fully corrupt, until the earth is filled up with perfect corruption and wickedness. It's multiplying also for evil. The devil's multiplying. The birds are the foul spirits, and the seas are the waters, the harlot, and the things in the seas are in the waters below, carnal. And the 5th day, multiplying. It's just interesting, I think, 5,000 loaves of bread. 500 is number 5. So the evening and the morning, 5th day for multiplying. Be fruitful and multiply. What's giving the good news, the truth to someone? Well, if they're born from above and believe, that was multiplied. That's a believer born, added to the ecclesia, the body, because it's not carnal. It's not speaking of adding another physical, literal being, human being, but the person's already literally, physically there, but they weren't there. When someone believes they're born, and it's like having a kid, and they're born. Now you multiplied spiritually another believer until the kingdom of heaven does conquer all things in due time and wipes out the devil's kingdoms utterly as if they were never there. Let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish, the sea, not having a clue what any of this means. Nope, but just assuming constantly and only thinking carnally. Where does it say that it applied perfectly for Adam and Eve in the Father's image? No, where? And how come they can't answer? How come Adam and Eve sinned and went into a deceitful, wicked heart? Incredibly deceitful. It blames Eve. It blames the serpent. Blames everyone. It twists his word. It adds. It takes away from his word. Fear, doubts, worries. It does the mix thing. It breaks everything you can think of. And that's in the Father's image? How come they sinned then and did all that? If they were in his image, what happened? Did they break the image? Don't play games now. You can't play games, church world. If you were actually in the Father's perfect image, which one is it? Were you in his image or were you not? If they were, how could they sin? So they call the Father a sinner. Their father is the devil, because the Father's not an actual sinner. They just call him that. It's what they believe. Their father's the devil. Our Creator is the devil to them. Elohim saw everything that he made, and indeed it was very good. This is so. So the evening and the morning, the 6th day. All of creation receives rest. to add to the salvation of all. The heavens and the earth and all the host of them were finished, and on the seventh day Elohim ended his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. He blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because he rested from all his work which Elohim had created and made. So the seventh day rest. He's been resting ever since. The creation will receive rest. Those that believe in Messiah, he is our rest. We become spiritual from the carnal man 6 to 7, entering his rest. And the new creation for a believer is the age to come, the resurrection, the new creation completely. But the age to come is the world's rest, because it will be the beginning of 6,001 years, which is day 7 for the creation. From 6,001 to 7,000 is the 1,000 years of day 7, rest. Right now we're in the wicked age of day 6. Man's reign, man's carnal wicked kingdoms, where there's only a few believers that ever were few, but in the age to come it's turning around. It's going to be just a few unbelievers until the kingdom of heaven conquers everything, until Messiah defeats all his enemies by overcoming evil with good, by doing what he's doing with believers now, so that all comes to the knowledge. The knowledge of Jehovah will be like the earth, like the waters cover the sea. And so many scriptures about the salvation of all. But this is an abomination to them, because they need to be prideful about something. They need to justify it. They need to be righteous about something, and way better than someone, and way more righteous. So much more righteous that burning in hell forever is what they will not be in, but most of the creation will. That's how much. Why? Because they're just so much better. Why? Because they said, I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Now it's over. Now the people that don't say those words with their mouth will burn in hell forever and ever and ever and ever, violently tortured forever. But those that say, I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, then they will be going to heaven and they will be there forever. That's how much better and more prideful these people are than everybody else, than all of the other creation. It condemns everything and everyone. It even condemns its own self. Would it like to read that in Romans or whatever we read plainly? Yes, they condemn themselves. Hypocrisy is condemnation. When it says not to do something out of a condemning evil heart, which doesn't want to help at all, this is condemnation for self. It's hypocrisy because it's guilty of what it judges and condemns itself. I think that's it. It's evil. They hate the truth. They hate the plan that the Father has and the salvation. There's nothing left to make them righteous. That's why they need to believe that. They need to be self-righteous and need to do and believe that they've done something way better than everyone else for saying a few words. What's their reality? What's their heart actually doing? How monstrous it is, how blind it is, how evil and cruel it is, wicked. The harlot has fornicated with the beast, and it spread its wicked seed everywhere and corrupted the whole earth. Bad seed. Where's the quick thing? I don't know. Let's go to... I think I'm going to end here. Just wanted to speak a little bit on Genesis and how much there's in Genesis, and Elohim draws the mighty away with his power. He rises up, but no man is sure of life. Well, the prideful sure act like they're sure of life, but what's their heart? It's not so sure of life at all. Nope. He gives them security, and they rely on it. Yet his eyes are on their ways. They are exalted for a little while, then they are gone. They are brought low. They are taken out of the way like all others. They dry out like the heads of grain. Now if it is not so, who will prove me a liar and make my speech worth nothing? Well, I haven't seen anybody been able to do that with the Father's truth. They just say the words of test and prove all things and never do it. You know, that doesn't count for doing it. Saying the words doesn't count. Therefore, since a promise remains of entering his rest, let us fear lest any of you seem to have come short of it. For indeed the gospel was preached to us as well as to them, but the word which they heard did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in those who heard it. Interesting. I just hit this random verse, chapter in Hebrew, and but the word which they heard did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in those who heard it. Get away. For we who have believed do enter that rest, as he has said, so I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. The end was declared from the beginning. The works were finished from the foundation of the world. Incredible. For he has spoken in a certain place of the seventh day in this way. And Elohim rested on the seventh day from all his works. And again, in this place they shall not enter my rest. Psalm. Since therefore it remains that some must enter it, and those to whom it was first preached did not enter because of disobedience, again he designates a certain day, saying in David, today, after such a long time, as it has been said, today if you will hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. He says, today, after such a long time, as it has been said, today if you will hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. For if Joshua had given them rest, then he would not afterward have spoken of another day. There remains therefore a rest for the people of Elohim, for he who has entered his rest now in belief has himself also ceased from his works, as Elohim did from his. Do they understand this? No, because that's all I see religion do, is do their own works and watch all the unrest it's in, and the unrest and death that the world is in and the harlot and beast is in. Let us therefore be diligent to enter that rest, lest anyone fall according to the same example of disobedience. For the word of Elohim is living and powerful, and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the division of soul and spirit, and of joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. And there is no creature hidden from his sight, but all things are naked and open to the eyes of him to whom we must give account. Seeing then that we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Yehoshua the son of Elohim, let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who cannot. This would be the anti-Messiah, the God-man in Christianity who cannot sympathize with anyone because it doesn't even exist. But because it's anti-Messiah, because it's God, because it's the God-man, and not man at all. For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in a time of need. I think that's going to be it. And must seek the Creator with the heart, with all the strength, soul, and mind, and not use his grace for a license to sin. No, not that, but obtain mercy and find grace to help in a time of need, because we need it. Therefore, come boldly to the throne of grace. All right, peace, take care, seek truth from above.